Hey, welcome to Brainworms, the fucking id-driven hallucinogenic nightmare where we read books and hate ourselves. I'm Joe.
I'm Kaine.
And I'm Chris.
And since David's gone operating on his secret Canadian mission again, we're going to finish Eye of Argon because we hate ourselves and we hate you. If you don't know what Eye of Argon is, then your life is better than mine. But it was an amateur science fiction novella written in 1970 by amateur author Jim Thies. And it was...
Who did not have a lot of interactions with females.
He did not. No, he did not know about the females. Females. And it has been called the worst fantasy novel ever published. If you want to go back in time, which honestly, I don't know why you're listening to this episode when you haven't listened to those episodes, but we've done 2 previous episodes also reading Eye of Argon. And now we're going to finish it. But before we do that, would you like to come and talk to Brainworms on the internet? Because we have all of the social medias. We have the Facebook and the Twitters and the Instagrams, and you can talk to us. And because we're lonely nerds who also have very little human interaction.
And also because we have very few fans.
Yeah, this is wildly unpopular, this podcast. And yeah, we'll probably talk to you. And also, if you really want to just get good karma as you ride the karmic wheel through the universe, then you can go to patreon.com/brainworms podcast and you can support the show and give us some money to buy better editing software.
Which we super pinky promise that's what we'll spend it on instead of like 1990s pop rings.
Do you mean ring
I
pops?
only spend it on
Ring pops, yeah.
I only spend it on Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
I would like a microphone that doesn't smell like Kaine's fluids. So
that's never going to happen.
You know, if you want to donate for a non-fluid scented microphone, we would welcome that.
So I actually don't know anything about this book.
Great.
And I hadn't been created
you're
yet.
Just coming in right at the end of chapter 6 with no. Do you want some context?
Nope,
no?
He's not getting
no,
it.
No, I don't. I feel like I've escaped a pretty grim fate by getting this far into it before I have to start reading
Isn't it a common practice for readers, like if they find a book, to then like just open it to any given page and like just read a few bars to see how it
to see like what the writer's language sounds like, to see if it resonates with them.
So this will be a simulation of that.
Yay! All right, well.
Yeah.
Well, can I at least know what is it? Grignir?
I mean, it's a made-up word, man. Pronounce it however you want.
Grig? See the G and R, like it doesn't have. So I'm just gonna call him Grig. The N and R is silent.
Yeah.
Here we go. They have no more to fear of Agathim now, bellowed Grig in a deep, mirthful tone. What? Gleeful smirk upon his face. I have seen that they were delivered from his vengeance. Engrossed by Carthena's graceful stride and conversation, Grig failed to take note of the footfalls rapidly approaching behind him. As he swung aside the arched portal linking the chamber with the corridors beyond, a maddened, blood-lusting screech reverberated from his eardrums.
Eardrums are screeching? Hold the fuck on.
I missed that feat in 5e. I need to go back and remake some characters.
I would like the ears that do blood-lusting screeches, please. I don't know what that's going to do. Bloodlusting screeches that reverberate from your own ears.
Let me tell you exactly what that's useful for. Making the greatest metal band ever.
It's true. Can he also screech from his mouth and have like
no,
a cool
he listens with his
effect?
mouth. Duh.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
No. I think the way this works out is he has this membrane that's like a snake's second eyes or whatever, or like a shark's second eyes. But instead of being on his eyes, they're in the ears.
Okay.
Right? And he uses this bloodlust scream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when he does that, the actual parts of his ears that would hear sound get that little flap that closes over top of it to protect it from the blood-lusting scream.
What Greg normally uses this for is when he goes down on his partner, looks up, makes eye contact with his mouth full, and then screams from somewhere.
All right, well, seemingly utilizing the speed of thought, Grigg swiveled to face his unknown foe with gaping eyes and widened jaw.
Oh, you could just reverse
Grigg raised his axe
it would have
above his
jaws, all of them.
Mine. But he was too late. Chapter 7?
7, yeah.
With wobbling knees and swimming head, the priest that had lapsed into an epileptic seizure rose unsteadily to his feet. While enacting his choking fit and writhing agony, the shaman was overlooked by Grigg. The barbarian had mistaken the seizure for the death throes of the acolyte, allowing the priest to avoid his stinging blade. The sight that met the priest's inflamed eyes nearly served to sprawl him on the floor once more.
It would have been great if he just had another seizure and fell over again.
I honestly think that we should probably be doing this in like Cannibal Corpse vocal stylings.
Yeah.
You know, like violent acting is
pretty good at that, actually.
Like that kind of
thing. Is that
thing.
a thing that you like? Have you practiced that?
No, that's actually the first time I've ever tried to do a death metal growl.
You may want to pursue that, actually.
Yeah, I don't. Death metal fans are garbage.
It's true.
Sorry if there are death metal fans that listen to this and you're like, whoa, why am I garbage? It's because of the obsession with fascism and overpowering women that's prevalent in death metal.
If you're a death metal fan that isn't garbage, then we're not talking about you.
Yeah, and if you still are offended, we definitely are talking about you.
If you're a death metal fan that knows what we're talking about, they know we're not talking about them. They're the ones going, yeah, I know, right?
I know. I get it.
All right. The sight that met the priest's inflamed eyes nearly served to sprawl him upon the floor once more. The sacrificial sat it grim.
What?
Blood-splattered silence all around him, broken only by the occasional yelps and howls
of his ears,
of his maimed and butchered fellows. Above his head rose the hideous idol, its empty socket holding the shaman's furbished, infuriated gaze.
Okay. Everything stopped.
That was the sequence of words.
I'm going through it. No, his eyes turned to a stony glaze with the realization of the pillage and blasphemy. Due to his high susceptibility following the seizure, the priest was transformed into a raving maniac bent solely upon wreaking vengeance. With lips curled and quivering, a crust of foam dripping from them, the acolyte drew a long, wicked-looking jewel-hilted scimitar from his silver girdle and fled through the aperture in the ceiling, uttering a faintly perceptible ceremonial gibberish.
I'm trying to look up if furbished. I don't think it's a word.
I don't think it's a word.
That was two sentences. That last.
That was, yeah. He loves to just punctuation only when absolutely necessary.
And I don't know why this is necessary, but 7.5.
Yeah.
A sweeping scimitar swung towards Grigg's head in the shadowed blur of motion. With axe raised over his head, Grigg prepared to parry the blow while gaping wide-eyed in open-mouthed perplexity. Suddenly a sharp snap resounded behind the frothing shaman. The scimitar, halfway through its fatal sweep, dropped from the quivering, nerveless hand, clattering harmlessly to the stonage.
Way too much fun.
Why, whenever there's an action scene, does Greg just open all of his orifices?
It's part of that. It's how he powers up his bloodlust screech from his eardrums.
Not even Goku does that when he powers up.
His anus gaping in fury. Just all of his holes.
I was thinking that, but for some reason, when you said it, it just tickled me.
Cutting his screech short. Now, was that the screech from the ears? Never mind. Cutting his screech short with a bubbling red-mouthed gurgle, the lacerated acolyte staggered under the pressure of the released springboard. After a moment of hopeless struggling, the shaman buckled, sprawling face down in a widening pool of blood and entrails.
Blood.
His regal purple robe blending enhancingly with the swirling streams of crimson. All right, so at some point, this feels like picking on someone that we probably shouldn't be picking on.
No, the author is basically cool with it. They're they know what they've wrought.
All right, good. Okay.
Yeah, he's been interviewed and just been like, yeah, I get it. He later went on to pursue journalism. So.
Oh, nice. All right, well, I've got another name that doesn't make sense, so I'm just going to call them Riff.
Well, first, at least try.
Mrifk. No, it's Riff.
No, that's not a name. That's just a noise that Grigner will make every now and then. Just Murph.
Is it Murph? Murph?
Yeah, it's an onomatopoeia. So just however you want to approach that.
Right.
No. First, you're putting way too many perceived vowels in there. It's got to be like.
Honestly, I'm just going to say riff. The M and the K are silent.
You're just picking the letters that you like at this point.
Riff. I thought I had killed the last of those dogs, muttered Grigg in a half-apathetic state. Hey, Grigg, you doubtless grew careless while giving vent to your lusts.
Whoa.
But let us not tarry any long, lest we overtax the fates. The paths leading to freedom will soon be barred.
At some point, is this going to have a point? Any of these words, just...
Look, honestly, I think that this story was literally written so that he could show the pictures of boobies that he drew.
I've seen worse excuses to have tits. Like bad exploitation movies from the 60s.
Yeah.
Right, but still, I think that's... Alright, so the wretch's cries must certainly have attracted unwanted attention, the wench mused. Who's the wench?
The only way that this writer refers to women is female, wench,
or back boobs.
Or, he has some confusing understandings of anatomy. But yeah, wenches and females are generally how women are referred to in this book.
By what direction shall we pursue our flight? Up that stair and down the corridor a short distance is the concealed entrance, not entrance,
It's different.
To a tunnel seldom used by others than the prince, and known to few others save the palace's royalty.
Oh, wait! So we are, in an upstairs dungeon.
Yeah. That's another thing. Grignir in the earlier chapters, Grignir was...
It's Grigg.
Whatever. The real David said Grignir.
Yeah, well, real David should have known there's no I between N and R.
That's true.
So we're not just going to just throw those sounds together. The N and R are silent.
He was thrown in a dungeon, and then he was like, fuck, how am I going to get out of this dungeon? And he wandered around. and then he found like a downstairs area below the dungeon.
He found like a trap, like a floor trap, and beneath the floor trap.
Whoa! No more context. Look, I don't need to be dragged back to the beginnings of this book. Okay, I'm fine where I'm at.
It was literally before your time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And known to few others save the palace's royalty. It is used mainly by the prince when he wishes to take leave of the palace in secret. It is not always in the prince's best interests to leave his chateau in public view. Even while under heavy guard, he is often assaulted by hurtling stones and rotting fruits. The commoners have little love for him. Lectured the ear lady?
What? Come again.
What? Nerelady. I don't know that word.
It might not be one.
It is amazing that they would ever have left a pig like him become their ruler. I should imagine that his people would rise up and crucify him like the dog he is.
Crucify dogs? That's fucked up.
Wait. Would Dog Jesus come back in 3 days, but dog years time?
Yeah.
Alas, Greg, it is not as simple as all that. His soldiers are well paid by him. So long as he keeps their wages up, they will carry out his damned wish. Damned wished.
Okay.
The crude implements of the common folk would never stand up under an onslaught of forged blades and protective armor. They would be going to their own slaughter.
See, here's a funny thing, Grigner. The populace shut up. The populace almost always outnumbers the royal guard.
Oh, so the wench mused is Carthena.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's nice. They would be going to their own slaughter, stated Carthena to a confused but angered Grig as they topped the stairway.
Confused but angered is just really a summary of this whole
like
book.
Life?
Honestly, life, yeah. But specifically, this book is just confused and angry and
sexist.
Horny. Yeah.
Yet how can they bear to live under such oppression? I would sooner die beneath the sword than live under such a dog's command, added Grig as the pair stalked down the hall in the direction opposite that in which Grig had come.
That is how it always works, yeah.
That all men are not of the same mold that you are born of. They choose to live as they are so as to save their filthy necks from the chopping block, returned Carthena in a disgusted tone as she cast an apicide glance towards the stalwart figure at her side, whose left arm was bound dexterously about her slim waist, his slowly waning torch casting their images and intermingling wisps as it dangled from his left hand. I don't know what any of that means.
I remember when I played the Metroid games. Mm-hmm. And you'd beat the final boss, and like the planet would start to explode or whatever, and you'd have to like run and get out, and there was a sense of urgency. But the game would stop every 5 minutes to ask you philosophical questions. Yeah. That was my favorite part.
All I'm saying is someone set us up the bomb. Move Zig for great justice.
No, you have only one chance to survive. Make your time.
Exactly. Presently, Carthena came upon the panel, concealed amongst the other granite slabs and discernible only by the burned-out cresset above it. As I pushed the cresset aside, pushed the panel inwards. Carthena motioned to the panel she was referring to and twisted the cresset in a counterclockwise motion. Grig braced his right shoulder against the walling, concentrating the force of his bulk against it. The slab gradually swung inward with a slight grating sound. Carthena stooped beneath Grig's corded arms and crawled upon all fours into the passage beyond. Grig followed after, easing the slab back into place. Winding before the pair was a dark, musty tunnel, exhibiting tangled spider webs from it, ceiling to wall, and an oozy, sickly slime running lazily upon its floor.
Oh my God.
Hanging from the chipped wall upon Grig's right side was a half-moldered corpse.
Are you going to be okay?
It's gray
is a verb and a subject.
I've got to keep going. Stop interrupting me. Good job. Now I have to start over again. Thanks a lot.
No, now I have to start the whole book over again.
No, I've got to start this over again to make sure I do it all the way through.
Are you just
Winding before the pair was a dark, musty tunnel exhibiting tangled spiderwebs from its ceiling to wall and an oozing, sickly slime running lazily upon its floor. Hanging from the chipped wall upon Grigg's right side was a half-molded corpse, its gray, flacking arms held in place by rusted iron manacles. Carthena flinched back into Grigg's arms at the sight of the leering set in an ugly, distorted grimace staring horribly at her from hollow, gaping sockets.
Are you going to be okay?
Wait, I missed the second letter. Could you go back and do it again?
No. This alcove must have been used by Agathim as a torture chamber. I wonder how many of his enemies have disappeared into these haunts, never to be heard from again, pondered the hulking brute. Let us flee before we are also caught within Agathim's ghastly clutches. The escape from this tunnel cannot be very far from here, said Carthena with a slight sob to her voice.
So wait, hold on.
As she sagged, in Grigg's encompassing embrace. Are they... Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So this is like a torture oubliette. But they're like, we got to get out of this torture oubliette because it's our only way of escape. But if it's a way out, then how is it also a torture oubliette? If they can just leave through it.
Well, see, the oubliette works on the honor system, Joe. The prisoners go in to serve their time.
And be tortured.
Right. And they're just like, no. I'll leave when I've served my sentence. I know what I've done wrong. Please continue.
I just like the idea of them like leaving and escaping. Imagine if in New Hope when like they're running out to the Millennium Falcon and then they just stop and like, we have to escape from here. Yeah, let's go. And then they start going again. Like, yeah, like. We know.
Yeah.
We were there when it happened the first time.
Aye. It will be best to be finished with this corridor as soon as it is possible. But why do you flinch from the sight of death so? Riff. You have seen much death this day without exhibiting such emotions, exclaimed Grigg as he led her trembling form along the dingy confines. God damn it. The man hanging from the wall was Doyanta. One of the best names this author has produced thus far.
Also, how do we know that? How does anyone?
I think Carthena knows it.
Carthena knows it.
Oh, okay.
He had committed the folly of showing affections for me in front of Agathim. He never meant any harm by his actions. At this, Carthena broke into a slow, steady whimpering, chalking her voice with gasping sobs.
Gasping sobs?
Sobs. I'm assuming it was supposed to be choking her voice with gasping sobs. Okay. But he spelled it Chokking.
Okay, I thought you said
not even a C?
Chokking.
Like Daka Daka Daka?
Like Daka Daka Daka.
All right, cool. That's fine.
There was never anything between us, yet Agathim did this to him. The beast! May the demons of hell's deepest haunts claw away at his wretched flesh for this merciless act. She prayed. Is she praying to hell?
I mean,
that
awesome. Sounds pretty cool. She is, yeah.
Maybe this book's going to get better. I detect that you felt more for this fellow than you wished to let on. But enough of this. We can talk of such matters after we are once more free to do so.
You've been talking about bullshit this entire escape attempt.
With this, Grigg lifted the grieved female to her feet and strode onward down the corridor, supporting the bulk of her weight with his surging left arm. Why is his arm surging?
Oh, you precious heart, you.
Why is his arm surging?
It's fine. It's fine.
Presently, a dim light was perceptibly filtering into the tunnel, casting a dim reddish hue upon the moldy wall of the passage's grim confines. Carthena had ceased her whimpering. That's so fucked up! And partially regained her composure. The tunnel's end must be nearing. Rays of sunlight are beginning to seep into Grigg Clamede, his right hand over Carthena's mouth. Clameed.
It sounds like an abbreviation of chlamydia.
Grig Chlamede?
What?
Chlamede? I don't... Grig Chlamede his right hand over Carthina's mouth, and with a slight struggle pulled her over the shadows at the right-hand wall of the path, while at the same time thrusting his torch beneath an overhanging stone to smother its flickering rays. "Be silent! I can hear footfalls approaching through the tunnel," growled Grig in a hushed
Be quiet! They'll hear us!
Shut up, wench!
All that you hear are the horses corralled at the far end of the tunnel.
Why are there horses
That is a
corralled in the
further
tunnel?
sign that we are nearing our goal, she stated.
Alright, so wait, hang on. So we've got our upstairs oubliette and our downstairs like temple, and above that we have the stables.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
There's no page that we're on. This is. Oh, it's worse. Get ready. All that you hear is less than I hear. I heard footsteps coming towards us. Silence yourself, that we may find out whom we are being brought into contact with.
All that you
I
hear
doubt that.
is less than I hear is the best sentence ever written.
I doubt that
Holy
any would have
shit.
thought as yet of searching this passage for us. The advantage of surprise will be upon our side, Grig warned.
Be quiet, you'll ruin the surprise, which I will now explain how surprise tactics work.
Carthina cast her eyes downward and ceased any further pursuit towards conversation, an irritating habit in which she had gained an amazing proficiency. Two figures came into the pair's view from around a turn in the tunnel. They were clothed in rich, luxuriant silks and rambling on in conversation, while ignorant of their crouching foes waiting in an ambush ahead. "Barbarian dog is cringing beneath the weight of the lash this moment, sire. He shall cause no more disturbance."
Just don't actually look in the oubliette.
Yeah, don't,
I swear he's in
don't
there.
follow up. But I promise.
Aye, it's so it is with any who dare to cross the path of Sargon's chosen one, said the second man. But the peasants are showing signs of growing unrest. They complain that they cannot feed their families while burdened with your taxes.
What?
You know, that is... It's a really important part of the family unit. You know, like the United States, Russia, Japan, all these places, they all make sure that every household provider can feed their family.
I shall teach those sluts the meaning of humility?
What?
Wow.
Order an immediate increase upon their taxes. They dare to question my sovereign authority? Ha! Ah! They shall soon learn what true oppression can be. I will. A showdown bulk leapt from behind a jutting promontory as it brought down a double-edged axe with the spht of a striking thought. One of the nobles sagged lifeless to the ground, skull split to the teeth. I do like skull split to the teeth. I do enjoy
Yeah,
that.
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Grig grasped as he observed the bisected face set in its leering death agonies.
Did we just go into a Metalocalypse episode?
Yeah, it was Aga. And just so you know, this is another shitty name with less letters than it should have had. So the F, a gaff. It's a gaff. There we go. A gaff. The ND are silent. So it was a gaff. The dead man's comrade, having recovered from his shock, drew a jewel-encrusted dagger from beneath the folds of his robe and lunged toward the barbarian's back. Grig spun at the sound from behind and smashed down his crimsoned axe once more. His antagonist lunged howling to a stream of stagnant green water, grasping a sprout stump that had once been a wrist. Grig raised his axe over his head and prepared to finish the incomplete job, but was deterred halfway through by his lunge by a frenzied screech from behind. Oh no! Another frenzied screech! At least it's different from the bloodlust screech that Grig performs from his eardrums.
Where did the water come from?
Look, man. These are questions that can't be answered, alright?
Like, is it in a trough, or is it, like, just, like, standing because, like, we're in a dungeony kind of area and water pools underground, but we're above a temple?
Yes. Carthena leapt to the head of the writhing figure, plunging a smoldering torch into the agonized face. The howls increased in their horrid intensity, stifled by the sizzling of roasted flesh, then died down until the man was reduced to a blubbering mass of squirming, insensate flesh.
That's not what happens when you set someone on fire. It takes a while, and they make a lot of noise.
Grig advanced to Carthena's side, wincing slightly from the putrid aroma of charred flesh that rose in a puff of thick white smog throughout the chamber. Carthena reeled slightly, staring dazedly. It's actually not dazedly, but dazedly. D-A-S-E-D-L-Y. Staring dazedly. Decidedly, there you go. What does that mean, Joe?
It's not a word. It's just a more fun word.
Staring decidedly, dazedly downward at her gruesome handiwork. I had to do it. It was Agathim. I had to, she exclaimed. Sargon should be more careful of his right. I'm sorry, it wasn't careful. My brain completed that on accident. Sargon should be more careful of his right-hand men,
like
added Grig,
Shriners?
a smug grin upon his lips. But to hell with Sargon for now. The stench is becoming bothersome to me. With that, Grig grasped Carthena around the waist, leading her around the bend in the cave and out into the open. A ball of feral red was rising through the mists of the eastern horizon, dissipating the slinking shadows of the night. A corral stood before the pair, enclosing 2 grazing mares. Grig reached into a weighted-down leather pouch dangling at his side and drew forth a scintillant red emerald he had obtained from the bloated idol. Raising it toward the sun, he said, "We shall do well with Bauble, eh?"
What? Is that the sentence? Just, we shall do well with Bauble.
We shall do well with Bauble, eh?
I think he had a stroke. Like, just mid-sentence.
Do well with Bauble.
Carthena gaped at the gem, gasping in a terrified manner. The Eye of Argon! Oh, Kala! At this, the gem gave off a blinding glow, then dribbled through Grig's fingers into a slimy red ooze.
Fucking what?
Grig stepped back, pushing Carthena behind him. The droplets of slime slowly converged into a pulsating jelly-like mass.
Is the eye mimic or something? What the fuck is happening right now?
A single opening transfixed the blob, forming into a leech-like maw. Then the hideous transgressor of nature followed towards Grig, a trail of greenish slime lingering behind it. The single gap puckered repeatedly, emitting a ghastly sucking sound. Grig spread his legs into a battle stance, stealing his quivering thews for a battle royale with a thing he knew not how to fight. Carthena wound her arms around her protector's neck, mumbling, "Kill it! Kill!" while her entire body trembled. The thing that was almost upon Grig when he buried his axe into the grisly maw. It passed through the blob and clanged upon the ground. Grig drew his axe back with a film of yellow-green slime clinging to the blade. The thing was seemingly unaffected. Then it started to sluice up to his leg. The hairs upon his nape stood on end from the slimy feel of the thing's bully bulk.
I've seen enough. I've been on the internet enough to know where this is going.
Pretty pornographic what's happening right now.
The naughtus sucking sound became louder, and Grig felt the blood being drawn from his body. With each hiss of hideous pucker, the thing increased in size.
Say the words hideous pucker to me again.
Grigg shook his foot about madly in an attempt to dislodge the blob, but it clung like a leech, still feeding upon his rapidly draining life fluid. He grasped with his hands, trying to rip it off, but only found his hands entangled in a sickly glue-like substance.
Oh,
The slimy thing continued its puckering, now having grown the size of Grigg's leg from its vampiric feast. Grigg began to reel and stagger under the blob, his chalk-white face and faltering muscles attesting to the gigantic loss of blood. Carthena slipped from Grigg in a death-like faint. A morrow chilling scream upon her red rubbish lips.
What?
In final desperation,
call her lips trash lips.
In final desperation, Grigg grasped the smoldering torch upon the ground and plunged it into the reeking maw of the travesty.
Isn't the reeking maw of the travesty like attached to his leg and crotch?
Travesty,
Whatever.
not travesty. All right?
Travesty
I just want
is
to know
when
if
you
he shoved
have-
a torch into his own crotch.
Open. A shutter passed through the thing.
No,
Grigg.
look. A travesty is a very, very poorly done tapestry. That's all you need to know.
Can I finish?
Yes.
Grigg began to reel and stagger under the blob, his chalk-white face and faltering muscles attesting to the gigantic loss of blood. Carthena slipped from Grigg in a death-like faint, a marrow-chilling scream upon her red rubbish lips. In final desperation, Grigg grasped the smoldering torch upon the ground and plunged into the reeking maw of the travesty. A shudder passed through the thing. Grigg felt the blackness closing upon his eyes, but held on with that last ebb of his rapidly waning vitality. He could feel its grip lessening as a hideous gurgling sound erupted from the writhing maw. The jelly-like mass began to bubble like a vat of boiling tar as quivers passed up and down its entire form.
Is this language weirdly pornographic to anyone but me?
I was just about to I was trying to come up with a joke. Like, I think it's about to come.
End of available copy. Are you ready for this, though?
Yeah.
Because you guys are in luck.
Uh-huh.
We have access to a lost ending.
Whoa, dude.
This last set of 3 paragraphs is going to redeem this entire book. So I want you guys to get yourselves prepared emotionally for everything that's about to happen.
I'm clenched up, and I'm good.
my orifices are gaping.
Mine are puckered, so with the sloshing.
We'll see which is better.
We should sit side by side, and then that would be our own version of like the see no evil, speak no evil.
Yeah, with a sloshing plop, the thing fell to the ground, evaporating in a thick scarlet cloud until it reattained its original size. It remained thus for a moment, as the puckered maw took the shape of a protruding red eyeball, the pupil of which seemed to unravel before it. The tale of creation.
What?
How a shapeless mass slithered from the quagmires of the stigmatic pool of time, only to degenerate into a leprosy of avaricious lust. Avaricious lust? There we go. Avaricious lust. In that fleeting moment, the grim mystery of life was revealed before Grigg's ensnared gaze. The eyeball's glare turned into a sudden plea of mercy, a plea for the whole of humanity.
What?
Then the blob began to quiver with violent convulsions. The eyeball shattered into 1,000 tiny fragments and evaporated into a curling wisp of scarlet mist. The very ground below the thing began to vibrate and swallow it up with a belch. The thing was gone forever. All that remained was a dark red blotch upon the face of the earth, blotching things up. That's fucking in the book.
So the blob tried to vor Grigg, and it failed to do so, whereupon the earth vored the monster.
Right.
Shaking his head, his shaggy mane clear the jumbled fragments of his mind, Grigg tossed the limp female over his shoulder, mounting one of the disgruntled mares and leading the other.
The female. Carry on.
The weary, scarred barbarian trudged slowly off into the horizon to become a tiny pinpoint in a filtered field of swirling blue mists, leaving the nobles, soldiers, and peasants to replace the missing monarch. Long live the king!
Okay, well.
Winner of the J.T. Rickosh Award for Excellence.
Cool. That's a prestigious award.
Transcriber's note. Because why the fuck not?
It, yeah.
No mere transcription can give the true flavor of the original printing of The Eye of Argon.
I don't know what the true flavor of the original printing of The Eye of Argon was.
It was mimeographed with stencils cut on an elite manual typewriter. Many letters were so faint as to be barely readable. Others were overstruck. And some that were to be removed never got painted out with correction fluid. Usually, only one space separated sentences, while paragraphs were separated by a blank line and were indented 10 spaces. Many words were grotesquely hyphenated, and there were illustrations. I cannot do them justice in mere words, but they were a match for the text. These are the major losses of this version of TEOA. Otherwise, all effort has been made to retain the fully correct text, preserving even misspellings and dropped spaces. An excellent proofreader has checked it for errors, both omitted and committed. What mismatches remain are mine. I shall endeavor to keep a copy of the original available for viewing, so it may be appreciated in all its fullness. But as a labor of love for those whose third-generation copies have now succumbed to the bitter vicissitudes of time and entropy, worn away by the ravages of countless rereadings before enthralled audiences, yet who have found that the heady flavor of its stylistic paragraphs has seeped into their soul and still grips it with a fervent grasp, I dedicate this machine-readable version of the inimitable The Eye of Argon.
You know, as you were reading that, I found myself thinking about all of the knowledge that has been lost to time because of like library fires and natural disasters and fascist purges, shit like that. You know, all of the knowledge that has been lost to history. But the Eye of Goddamn Argon is preserved for all eternity. In just unaltered form, you know, all of the errors and mistakes and fuckery perfectly intact as put down by the hand of the writer.
Not even the original trilogy, like the originals, like George Lucas scrubbed that clean.
Yeah. Unless you just have a VHS, you don't own and cannot get the Greedo shooting first version of Star Wars. But the Eye of Goddamn Argon,
there it is,
preserved in amber for future generations. In the end times, when the neuromancers scour the wastelands looking for lost media, they're gonna find the Eye of Argon perfectly preserved.
So what do we think of the Eye of Argon?
Well, I think that it's important to note that it was fucking terrible. There's nothing redeemable about it, except for, where's that line at? There was a line
about the skull down to the jaw,
to the teeth.
Yeah.
Skull split to the teeth. That was fucking dope. That was pretty metal. Yeah. Everything else is trash.
Yeah, guys, I actually I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a pretty good book. I don't know.
Yeah, all that you hear is less than I hear. And we can't forget. We cannot forget. I shall teach those sluts the meaning of humility.
The all that you hear is less than I hear. That sounds like a line out of one of the Matrixes, one of the sequels.
It sounds like a bad anime dubbing.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's a much better comparison.
It actually sounds like, Joe, why the fuck did you bring this thing back so that we could finish it?
So that we could finish it. You answered your own question.
Why? Why though? Why did this need to be unearthed? You're part of what's going to have this surviving the end times. All right.
know.
This is going to be put out into the internet in audiobook form.
Yeah, in 3 parts for your reading pleasure. Although,
how the fuck did it take 3 parts?
There was a lot.
Dude,
Okay?
scroll up. Look at how meaty some of these chapters are. You know, combine that with, like, look at the size of chapter 6 even is enormous. Combine that with us shouting and shrieking about it.
And then there's just this random eyeless woman titty picture. The eyeless or noseless?
It's fine.
I can't tell.
Don't
trying to understand.
I am of a mind that we should do a Dungeons and Dragons game set in the world of Eye of Argon.
I think that's fucking terrible.
Can I get the feet for the screaming ears?
Fuck, I want that too. Yeah.
Screaming ears.
Blood-lusting screech from my eardrums.
And the reason why you want it is because it gives you an advantage in all intimidation rolls.
Does it though?
Yeah.
There was like because the almost every time that there's a female character referenced in this book, it's either the female or the wench or the harlot. Not great representation, but in the first episode of this book, every time David would reference females, I would just go females and crack up to the point that I had to promise I would stop doing it. So that wound up taking a lot of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of words in this that aren't real. Like he was just typing along. It was like, you know what? Fuck it. This feels like it means something.
Yeah, this means something to me.
No, you think it's like, this feels like it means something.
Haven't there been authors who have invented words? Like, didn't Shakespeare invent a lot of words in his plays? Did I just say something really stupid?
Yeah, I'm not very. I don't know a lot of. I mean, I know some of Shakespeare's stuff, but I don't know that he created words.
Yeah,
I could have sworn he did. That like
I wasn't confident enough to tell you like, no, you're wrong, but that doesn't feel true.
Let's ask Google.
Females.
What the fuck?
What?
Okay, so I'm going to Google to ask Google, did Shakespeare invent any words?
Uh-huh.
It autocompletes with, did Shakespeare write the Bible?
He actually did. He wrote the King James translation.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I had no idea. So like that just slapped me across the face.
This is stimulating content. This is a shorter episode than usual. We're probably going to talk about Shakespeare for a few more minutes. So if you're like, fuck these nerds and their bullshit, don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell.
Honestly, we're really sorry about doing the Eye of Argon. You didn't deserve this. No one. We didn't deserve this to do this to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we did, honestly. Like, this is really as much as we're worth. But the listeners probably did deserve better than to be subjected to this.
They did. And you know what? I really do apologize.
But yeah, we're sorry. And if you want us to apologize to you directly, leave a comment on YouTube and say, hey, I was really hurt and offended and made upset. My young child was horribly traumatized by this book. And I'll get in there in the comment section or some representative of the podcast and just say, look, I get it. I'm really sorry. I'm not going to do anything for you financially, but I do apologize. I get it.
You know, and if you actually go to the Patreon, we'll talk about you and how sad we are about what we did.
Yep.
With this episode and the next episode.
And all of the past episodes.
Shakespeare invented roughly 400 words by conjoining two words, changing verbs into adjectives, changing nouns into verbs, adding prefixes to words, adding suffixes to words.
Oh, that's fun.
Awesome.
So a lot of and then a lot of those ended up entering like the common language.
Right.
Neil Gaiman told me that Shakespeare sold his soul to the Fae so that he could be successful.
Is that supposed to be bad?
No, I was just telling what Neil Gaiman told me.
Sandman is one of my favorite comic book series of all time.
Any copyrighted content contained within this podcast is used for purposes of review. Brainworms Podcast is David Combs, Christian Schaefer, and Joseph Wells. Editing and post-production by David Combs. Art provided by Kaine Magdalen. The theme music is Hodgepod No. 1 by Brian Davis. If you like what you heard, please support us on Patreon or Ko-Fi, or by leaving a review on your favorite listening app.